are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the Coronavirus Sessions. I am your host, Collin, and my co-host is the one and only Michael Dees. What is up?
Not much, man. We're going through this. Today we're recording on Friday, which I don't even know what days of the week mean anymore. It's all a blur.
It doesn't even matter at this point.
Yeah. But no, I'm doing good. It's another day. So I'll be going to the dealership today to get some stuff done. I'm excited. We'll release this afterwards, but I'm excited for our beer hangout tonight. So that'll be fun to see how that goes. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do that again. For everybody who's listening to this episode, we did we're doing tonight a networking beer night with podcast family. There's it says there's 30-something, 40-something people going. So we'll see how it goes. We'll let everybody know, and then we'll do it again. But I'm sure we're gonna do more virtual events where we can hang out with our podcast audience and just chill and talk and see what's going on in y'all's world. Maybe we even record one. What if we got 40 people in there? We just had a conversation and just recorded it.
I mean, you should definitely hit record. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe we get Zoom bombed or something, but it's definitely worth recording. Okay, if we get through this whole thing, about that, so. I was gonna say, if we get through this whole thing without actually getting Zoom bombed, can we say we did this? I feel like that's a rite of passage at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man. So, well, anyway, before we really dive into this episode, I want to make sure that we give a shout out to our sponsor, Matt Houchins of Houchins Consulting. Houchins Consulting is owned and operated by Gainesville native Matt Houchins right here. I just said all that. That's what happens when you say it and then you go and start reading a script. You guys, Matt helps local and national businesses by making sure that they show up when customers are searching for their products and services. Through the end of May, businesses can take advantage of a free Google My Business audit and update by mentioning this show. Tell Matt you heard. Hey, I heard it on the WHOA GNV podcast, baby. Let's go. Hook me up. And GNV, just find him at GNVSEO.com. That's SEO, for those people who don't know, means search engine optimization. GNVSEO.com, and Matt will take really great care of you. Matt, super grateful for your sponsorship and for supporting our podcast, man. And let's get into it, y'all. I'm excited to introduce my friend Eric. Eric, what is up, dude?
What up, guys? Thanks so much for having me on the podcast. A while back, I actually got to go behind the scenes for you guys' podcast setup. See a
That's
whole
right,
episode
man. You were in the studio.
Yeah,
that's right.
I love that studio, man. That's such a cool setup you guys have. The 4 different microphones going out to everybody.
I miss it terribly, to be honest.
I imagine so, right?
Dude, this social distancing stuff and doing these Zoom recordings. I mean, this is cool, and I think this is going to bring a lot of value to our audience and help businesses and individuals all across town.
It's so relevant right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool that we can jump in here and pivot and really dive into what's happening with this coronavirus. But man, do I miss being in that studio hanging out with everybody and
sweet setup for sure.
It's an experience in itself.
Yeah.
When you get invited to do the a studio session that's a whole other experience. So we'll have to do that sometime, man. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'd love that.
But yeah. So why don't you tell our audience who you are, what you do? Just give us the quick short story of Eric.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, my name's Eric Gilbert. I'm the director for Rising Calm Center. It's a Christian center here in Gainesville. We really specialize in 3 areas: helping people with anxiety, helping people with relationships, and helping people with healthy ways to handle their stress. So my background, master's in marriage and family therapy. I'm an Illinois boy, grew up around Chicago, and then I met my lovely wife when I was up at Northern Illinois University. We were going to school out there together, getting our master's degrees, and we got married in Illinois. If you guys remember the polar vortex, you ever remember reading about that in the news? That was all around Chicago. So that was the year after we got married, 2014. And we're we've had enough of that. We're ready to move on down south. So we moved down to Florida, 2014. And then my wife got accepted to UF Dental School, 2016. We made our way to Gainesville. and then started up Rising Calm Center in 2018. So here we are now, living life, man.
You know, the one thing that we don't have in Florida is polar vortexes.
Trust me, man. You guys do not want that. That was like some days it would be negative 40 degrees.
Let me explain to our audience what a Florida vortex is in Florida. It's anytime the temperature gets below 60 degrees, you are in a polar vortex in Florida.
You got long sleeves on. It's a shock.
Dude, it's like just last week, I mean, coming out on the back patio here, like this has been my remote office, and the temperature, it was like down in the 50s, and it was like early in the morning. One morning it was like in the 50s, and I'm like, damn, this is cold. I'm gonna go put my sweats on. Like, well, I'll be right back. So,
I think my blood's thinned out over the years. You know, I used to be cool in a t-shirt, but now it's like I'm putting on jackets and all this kind of stuff just to step outside in 50 degrees. You know.
That's right, man. So talk to us a little bit about this virus and like how it's impacted your life and your family's life and like the stuff that, you know, you guys got going on.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, it was interesting when we first started getting the news about coronavirus. At least for us, we didn't really anticipate how bad it was and how serious it was. So it was kind of like, well, you know, maybe we're going to get a client or two that, because they're elderly or their immune system might be compromised, maybe they're going to start canceling. And then the news started coming out more and more frequently in March, just about how serious this was. And we started to realize, well, it might not just be a client or two canceling. It might be that we have to actually shut the office down, or it might be that we're going to have to move a majority of clients onto online. So I started to realize that, and I just hired a new team member, Jessica, in February. So we were at the point of expanding, new clients coming in. I mean, getting 3 to 4 people interested in joining and working with us, you know, on a weekly basis. So it was going pretty quick, and I'm like, how do I keep up with the demand? And then it was like coronavirus started coming through and had the opposite problem of like, okay, now we got people, no one's calling us so much anymore. Things have slowed down tremendously. And how do we retain and serve our customers now that a majority are looking to go onto online services? So we started doing like telehealth, starting to use Zoom calls like this, and then also doing online coaching sessions too. So we started offering that to more of our clients to try to transition them towards Zoom calls. Some of these people, you know, they're younger, some are more adaptive, young professionals. Some might be an elderly couple who's been married for 30 years, you know, so first time trying to do something like this, just walking through that process, figuring it out together. I really admire my teammate, Jessica. For her, she had to do like a special training for telehealth services, for being able to provide counseling to clients online. And she just jumped on board with it. There was a cost for the training and everything. And she's like, I'll go for it. I know this is important. And so we just adapted. We started rolling with the punches. And now I'm happy to say we've been able to retain and even better serve a lot of our clients through this transition. Something I've been doing for a while, probably like about the last 4 to 6 months, is when it comes to working with people, a lot of times I tell in session, like you can get moments of clarity, you can get moments of breakthrough, but a lot of times it's about what daily work are you doing, what healthy habits are you working on a daily basis. And so I had started sharing files with people, like weekly lessons, I would call it, through Google Drive. And so I'm glad I had proactively built that beforehand, because now more than ever, like clients are finding value in that. So whenever we meet with somebody, we give them the option to say, hey, if we start emailing you lessons that are going to help you in your development to reach your goals, better manage your anxiety, improve your relationships, are you up for that? And so we kind of had that already in place. And so a lot of people have found value in that, while they're, especially if we've never had time on our hands before, a lot of people are finding it on their hands now. So a lot of times they can develop that on their own now.
You know, it's super interesting because, like, I don't think we all really realized it in the moment, but this is scaling our time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you think about like the Zoom meetups and stuff. I've been able to squeeze in more meetings, and you know, because you can line them up like back to back to back. There's no travel time. There's no, you know, before I'd be like, I was trying to get everybody to go and meet me at the same coffee shop. And I would do 1 at 8, 1 at 9, 1 at 10, 1 at 11, you know what I mean? And I was like trying to avoid traveling across town and these kind of things. Like this is, and we've said it multiple times already, this is going to become one of the new norms, right? And like when I think about you, like, and what you're doing, like, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, my mind instantly goes into a place of maybe I can, you know, do more check-ins with my clients, right? Maybe like if I'm normally doing a once a month or a once a week or whatever it is, maybe I can, you know, do more, like offer a little bit more without having to increase my fees or my rates for the, you know, for what I do, because it's here. Like it's
right.
Like, I can jump on here quickly. You know, so I don't know if that has come into play at all, but I feel like you're able to bring more value in the frequency because you can just jump on Zoom and say, hey, yeah, like what's going on? How can, you know, talk to me?
Yeah, I mean, service people in real time. Yeah.
I mean, is that the case at all, or, you know, has that even been a thought process at this point? Or
I think probably the biggest things have been being able to provide like email support and even text message support to people in real time, things like that. So that's more like if there is immediate need or something that they have a specific question about, being able to answer that quickly. And then through this, we've been offering like a free consultation for people. So if they're kind of like, hey, I've never done coaching before, I've never done counseling before, like, what are you guys really all about? You know, do you line up with my values? Are you going to help me reach my goals? We'll do consultations with them. And most of the time we've done it over the phone, but now we made the option through Zoom as well. Sometimes it can give people a different feeling if they're looking at you face to face and feeling like, hey, like I actually know this guy's personality a little bit more and I can see his approach to life, you know?
I'm curious if there's a trend, and maybe it's too early to tell, but remote life, is there more people dealing with anxiety and relational stress as this goes on and we're spending more times with loved ones away from our routine, or is this actually relaxing people and improving their mental health?
I wish I
love this. Hold on. You know, Mike, it's so funny because I was about to ask the exact same thing, and I was just thinking to myself yesterday how you and I normally don't ever ask the same questions.
This is the
I don't
moment.
know. I would say I don't know if that's true because there's so many times I'm like, okay, he just asked that, so I like wipe it away. But
you do? Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to like, because I feel like when we're in the studio, you and I completely have different questions. They're not even close. I'm never gonna ask anything similar to what you're gonna ask. And now I'm like, are we losing this sync by not being in the studio?
Uh-oh.
Like,
don't scare me like that. My seat just got a little hot.
But it's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So
go ahead, sorry.
I would say for vast majority of people, this time has brought an increase in anxiety and stress and relationship issues. I mean, you guys might have even seen in the news, just like domestic violence cases and everything have gone up a lot with that abuse happening more often. And so like some pretty serious stuff happening with tension. A lot of times, I was actually looking at some different articles and research, and they're talking about two different cases. One of them was like a team that was going to Antarctica, and another one was like an astronaut going up to space. And they talked about how you're in a confined space with people for a long time and how like little stuff can just wear on you over time. So somebody gave the example of like going to get tea, and they got it for themselves, but didn't offer it to anybody else. And it just like it got under their skin, where they're like, if we weren't around each other all the time, I wouldn't have been bothered by it so much. But now it's like even little things can set you off, especially like with people feeling the tension with their uncertainty. Maybe they don't know what's going to happen with their job. Maybe they feel like they don't know if they're doing the most that they can for their business to succeed long term. So as more anxiety, more is more uncertain and feels like more things are out of control, I've seen more people become more anxious, relationships have more tension, more issues start to pop up, it seems.
So that's a sensitive thing, and I don't wish to ever come across insincere when I say this, but does any of that mean that it should be good business for you down the road?
It's interesting because I don't know for sure what's going to be down the road, but I think more likely as people, especially the longer this thing goes on, I think people are kind of realizing the storm could last for a while. And as they're kind of like, well, wait 2 weeks and see what happens. Now it's kind of like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It could be 3 months. I don't know. But it could be at a point where I think people are starting to call more often now and starting to see, like, I need not just a short term, just got to make it through this week, but I need a plan to be able to make it through this time, this season,
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like we are getting more people now who are starting to call again and say, like, hey, I got to get time set up. I got to be able to find some kind of solutions for what I'm going through. So we try to adapt that too with our services. We know that finances have been kind of hard for people, especially with job loss. So our usual session rate is like $99 a session. But if somebody has like insurance or somebody has a certain annual income, then we move down to like $75 a session. And then if somebody is experiencing job loss, high levels of stress, something where it significantly cut off their finances, we go all the way down to $59 a session. So we try to give like a sliding fee scale now to kind of meet people where they're at, because especially some of this stuff is urgent, somebody really wants help right now, and we want to try to provide what we can to them.
Definitely. The mental health impacts of this, I'm fascinated by, and I know it's still too early to tell like what kind of lasting effect it's going to have, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out, especially as you mentioned job loss and the relational stuff about spending all this time together with people, where we've got built into our days these breaks and these me times and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting to see if it's a benefit for some and if it's a detriment to others.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I feel like is a game changer for people is if they're able to find a purpose to their time. So the people that get stuck into thinking, how long is this going to last? Am I going to run out of money? Is everything going to go badly for me in the future? And they kind of start to catastrophize everything, like everything's out of control, everything's ruined. Those are the people who tie themselves up in knots and end up either totally crashing, just like they're on the bed, they can't seem to motivate themselves to get up, or they're in a frenzy of activity, but nothing's really counting. They're just kind of flying themselves in any direction, but they have no purpose behind what they do. On the other side, the people who I see like thriving in this time are those who kind of say, I got to have a purpose for what I'm going to do in the midst of this. If this is going to go on, whether it be 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, I'm going to be able to try to find a way to have purpose in this time that serves my goals and my core values, who I am, my personality. That kind of stuff hasn't changed, So it's just shifted my approach towards it. So how can I use the tools that are still at my disposal now to grow, to adapt, to learn?
I wonder if you're going to have like a lot of business owners reaching out to you.
Yeah, it could happen.
It's funny. It's funny. Like, I don't know. I'm a very extremely positive person.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the game of entrepreneurship, I'm very much like, I've got this, let's go, but I'm telling you right now, man, in the last 3 weeks, I've gone from, feeling good, like I feeling good with the pressure, my back against the wall, like that's a zone that I've always been pretty comfortable in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get into the state of, I've got this, let's go, I'm hungry, I'm gonna make it through. And then like 24 hours later, I just want to be like in a depression in the bed. like leave me alone. I don't like, I'm not gonna make, it's like nowhere in between. I feel like it's one or the other, and like, and it's
strong waves.
It's taxing, and like, and I don't, and I've said this before because we've talked about depression on the show before. Like I don't have depression, and so like I don't want anybody who does to hear and be like, this guy doesn't know what depression is, because it's true, I don't. But like, I feel like if there's a place where I've been, close, I mean, it's been through a lot of this. It's been like, dude, it's been high or low. I feel like it hasn't been a lot of middle ground. So,
yeah, I
don't know if you have any advice there, like for the business owners that are going, because I feel like a lot of us are going through that. Like, we want to stay positive. We want to stay like very focused that, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to get through this. We're going to make it. You can do this. let's go. Like the number of people who have told me, Collin, you're like one of those leaders that this community, needs, and like, this is your time to shine. And I love hearing that kind of stuff, but at the same time, that's so much pressure.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like when you hear like, if this is your time to shine, you're going to do it. Like, I love being encouraged and being pumped up. And I'm naturally, like I said, not a person who needs to be pumped up, but when you start hearing those things, you're like, man, that's like a lot of pressure. I don't want to let people down. I don't want to I don't want to be one of the failures. What if I'm one of the failures? Dude, help me.
Yeah. You could feel free to bill him $59 for this.
I'm gonna get like an invoice. I'm gonna get like an invoice right after this.
Yeah. The thing that comes to my mind, and it might sound like one of those weak words, but it's really important, is self-care. Like if there's ever been a time to try to practice this stuff of like really filling up our life, our soul with good things so we're able to give to others, like now is that time. So like for me, having time with God in the morning, having time of prayer, having a time where I purposely turn off the electronics and unplug things and get real quiet and mindful in the moment. Kind of like, if I was to say, I was kind of like meditating, spending time with God purposefully. Like that's the kind of stuff that prepares me more for the day than I think just about anything else. Because I can kind of tune everything out for a minute and just be able to tune in what's going on with my soul. Like, where am I really at? If I'm anxious, if I'm angry, if I'm depressed, if I'm worried, wherever that stuff is, I can allow it to just be there for a moment, allow myself to feel it, and just to be able to kind of give, for me, it's being able to hand that over to God and just say like, hey, this is what I'm feeling on the inside right now. So being able to know ourselves and what we're feeling on the inside, and that self-care of being there for ourselves allows us to be able to fill up with good things so we can actually properly care for other people,
Yeah, the problem is that it's more difficult right now than ever, because, and I think a lot of it has to do with the remote lifestyles that are happening. I've seen a lot of people talk about how their routines have gotten unsynced. You normally have this all right, this is what time I wake up, this is what time I work out, this is what time I eat breakfast, I show up to work at this time, I have these hours filled with these things to do in my calendar, I leave at this time, I go home, it's like everything is routined out. But because of this remote life, then you got kids who are homeschooling, and sometimes they got Zoom meetings at 9, sometimes they're at 2 in the afternoon. It's like,
true, man.
there's no sync. There's no sync. Everything is all over the place. And I've even said, I was telling you right before this, like just chit chatting before we started, but dude, I've where I was trying to get in, and everybody who listens to the podcast know this, I was trying to get into like this morning routine of like waking up early and having that quiet time and doing these things for myself. Nope, like complete night owl. I've been working till 2 o'clock, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, cranking out work. And on my back porch out here with the Christmas lights on, just in my own little world out here on the back porch, it's so difficult because all of our routines have just been like, are just blown up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like our routines are blown up. Nobody has a routine. Nobody has a schedule anymore. People like Mike said at the beginning of the episode, I don't even know what day it is anymore. It's Friday. I'm pretty sure it's Friday. Like we don't know. Like everything is just all over the place. How can we keep that self-care amongst this crazy remote life,
It's a great question, man.
Phenomenon.
In my personal life, like I think you know this, Collin, like my wife and I just started having foster kids a few weeks ago, right before coronavirus and everything with the stay-at-home order really hit the fan, So these kids are from Honduras. They speak just Spanish. And I can speak a little bit of Spanish. My wife, praise God, she's bilingual, so she's got my back. But, you talk about throwing off your routine. It was like, we're like, okay, we'll have these kids. They're going to be at like this daycare center throughout the day. And then we'll go be with them in the evening kind of thing. And then sure enough, they closed the daycare center because of everything that's going on. So guess who's the full-time dad? Who's the full-time mom, and who's still got a business to run and everything. So I know what you mean, like wrenches being thrown into things. How do we still find a way to find purpose and passion and actually like detox a little bit from all this stress? So for us, there's a few things for me that I know really work. One of them is exercise. And so whether it's running outside for a mile or being able to do like a YouTube video with exercise routine for 15 minutes in the morning, that for me was like, I'm not going to compromise that. Because if I don't get that, I get more stressed, I get more anxious, I get more worked up. I get short in my conversations with my wife, I get short in my conversations with the kids. I don't listen as well to other people. So I just had to kind of make up a little list of non-negotiables, even if it was just a few things to say like, I know I need this time with God. I know I need some time for exercise. And I'm not talking many things. It could just be 1, 2, 3 things in your day. But being able to have that consistently and say, I'm not going to give that up because I know I need that for my mental health, for my ability to provide services the best I can to my people. So that for me still created like a sense of calm in the midst of the storm. Like, okay, from the time the kid gets up at 7 a.m. until the time they go to bed at 9 p.m., things are going to be kind of crazy. But before that time and after that time, those are my little moments of solace.
It's still, dude, it's so tough, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even before we got on here, the kids, they're playing Minecraft or something on the Switch. They're in there. Shannon's like trying to work. I'm trying to work.
Yep.
Kids are asking for things, pulling us off.
Yep.
And I'm just like, leave us alone. We have jobs. We got to get this stuff done. Let us get it done. It's just like, dude, it's intense. I've been trying to figure out how to like nail that routine.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is I've gotten a lot more done, after 10 o'clock when everybody, kids are in bed like 8 or 9, but like, even after Shannon has gone to sleep, I've just stayed up and I'm like, all right, now I've got like 3 hours of focused time. And
that's part of it too.
It's challenging, but
is knowing how you're wired. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we beat ourselves up because we're not doing the 12 habits of highly effective people, where it's like, I'm trying to do everything under the sun of all these people that influence me. But if you know that your zone of genius is in the evening, that's your time to create and to produce quality content. Like there's nothing wrong with being able to stay up late as long as you're present and able to do the things that really matter most in your day,
Yeah.
Sometimes
that's so true. I think you really do have to kind of like, when you're reading those books and you're like taking all this information from all of these places, you just got to like take the bits and pieces that influence you the most and make your own formula, right? Because like everybody I've talked to has said, man, the most successful people on the planet are the ones that wake up early in the morning, right? And I'm like, yeah, I hate waking up early in the morning, man. I just want to sleep.
I mean,
but I'll work late at night.
Right. I personally like Thomas Edison because that guy would take a nap every afternoon, man. I'm like, that's me. I haven't need a siesta. This is a guy.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So
he did so much, So. And
I'm still experimenting. Like I still will, like I said, like the first month of this year, I was waking up super early and just trying to navigate it. Still find my right formula. But anyway, Mike, what do you got, man? I could talk about routines and that kind of stuff all day long.
Ever since we started talking about the self-care thing, I kind of went down this rabbit hole in my brain. And so this is going to end up being more an ask for advice for our audience, less a question. But one of the things that I started thinking about was I was listening to this NPR program the other day, and they were talking about how in American culture, self-care tends to lead itself to this one box check thing that we do for ourselves, which a lot of people, if you think we glamorize that post-shift beer, or the girl that has the wine glass sitting at the bathtub, but how we rely on alcohol. And then I was thinking about this TikTok that I saw yesterday, that it was this guy going for a jog in his neighborhood, right? He's like, oh, I'm going for an exercise, and he's scoping out everybody in the neighborhood's recycling bin, and it's full of booze, bottles, and beer and other stuff, because everybody's in quarantine and everybody's drinking like crazy. So in some ways it's kind of fun, you know, because it's relaxing, right? But in other ways, I think that if we're not careful, it could have some negative repercussions. So I kind of just, like I said, it's not really a question so much as it may be an ask for advice. Like what are your thoughts on that, and how do we make sure we don't become negative reliant on alcohol while we're going through this, staying at home, and having these like social Zoom meetings and stuff like that?
Yeah,
that's such a great question, Mike. I'm so proud of you. That was awesome. I love that question.
Solid, man. Solid. Yeah. Part of it is knowing what is really going to help us with our health and what we're just doing to cope temporarily in the moment. You know, like alcohol, it can be something that we have a beer, we have a glass of wine, something like that. It can help us to relax. It can serve a little bit of purpose to, like, okay, I'm just going to, when I have a can of beer in my hand, it's a signal to my body to just take a moment and chill. Maybe it makes me more mindful. Maybe it makes it so I talk a little bit slower with my wife and I'm just more relaxed on the inside, you know? But the problem is if I start to become dependent, right? Where it's like, okay, one beer isn't doing it anymore. One glass of wine isn't doing the trick. You know what? I've got time in my hands, so I can just drink as often as I want whenever I feel I'm bored, you know? I think a lot of people, it's either the stress is driving them towards it or boredom's driving them to it. So knowing, like, what is my reason for reaching in the fridge right now? Am I just trying to relax, or am I trying not to deal with the reality of what's happening in my life at this moment? And I would say it's important too, best you can, try to limit your supply. It's a lot harder right now to say no to that thing if you know it's a vice for you. If you got it right there in the fridge and you got like a 40-pack ready to go, you know? You got a whole liquor cabinet. It's a lot harder to say no right now.
Eric, you know what's so tough about that though is that nobody wants to go to Publix like every 3 days.
Right.
I know.
You know?
I know.
Like normally it's like, I'm like, yeah, you know, we're going to Publix. I mean, there's times we go to Publix every day and pick up a couple things. Like, I mean, it's just, we're like, frequent trips to Publix is not a problem. Now it's like, all right, let's just stock up and let's go. Like the beer fridge is full, my friend. I don't know what to tell you.
Yes. That's what I'm saying, particularly for people who are really struggling in this. Like, if you know you've battled with alcohol before in the past, and it's been especially the moments where you felt low and kind of like defeated, like, just try to really limit that stuff. It's not going to be easy, but that's kind of the point. Like, make it so it's not convenient for you to reach in the fridge. So that way it's for you to feed that, you know?
That's really good. That's really good advice, Eric.
Thanks, man.
Definitely. I could say for my own take, it's like we were just talking last night about, you know, how our spending habits have been since we've been under this quarantine, and do we need to like budget our money more? And it's like, you know, we were talking how it feels like we've been saving a lot of money, and then I look at the bank account and it's like, no, man, these trips have been expensive. What I realized it was we're going through bottles of champagne at night like crazy. Like, that's just what we drink, you know, maybe a mimosa in the morning and then at night, and a bottle of champagne's 10 to 15, 20 bucks a bottle, right? And right. That's what we're spending a lot of money on. And so I think there's also the aspect of, even if it's not a physiological dependency on it, if we're going through this time right now where money is scarce, we're all clinging on to our money, and then you start to realize you're going broke because you're drinking so much, it becomes a psychological aspect. And that's the one that I'm kind of focusing in on, needing to cut back on, less like a, you know, biological aspect. But
yeah, and so part of that is you raise the consciousness of it to realize, okay, I don't think it's a problem. And then it's like looking at the numbers and being like, okay, I got to face the reality of what's happening. You know, my bank account isn't lying to me about this thing. So that's
you don't want to get to the point where it's like with the business, man, we got the credit card maxed out. Mike's like messaging me and say, hey, our scheduling stuff when I work isn't working. I'm like, yeah, it's because the credit card's maxed out. We can't pay the bill. You know, what happens at that point? Cut it.
Right. Only one option.
So we reached out to them. We're like, hey, we're not going to be able to keep paying this right now. And they're like, okay. So that was easy. We cut that pretty quick. The funny part with like the team members were like trying to clock in, and they're like, hey, it says I've been deactivated. And like, everybody's kind of like fearful that they just got laid
off.
Yeah, they got scared for a minute there.
without knowing about it. I've been deactivated. But no, I mean, sometimes it's like to the point where you can't buy it anymore. It's just like, all right, well, now's the time to cut it. So don't let yourself get to that point, Mike.
Right. I'm trying.
Yes.
Eric, this has been really, really good, my friend. Why don't you tell our audience where they can connect with you, where they can, get your services and that kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah, probably the easiest way is just to go to risingcalm.com, risingcalm.com. That's our website. Has everything about biography of who we are, what we do, how we serve people. And then you can also find us on Psychology Today. If you just type in for counselors or coaches around Gainesville, you can find us that way too. And yeah, be honored to serve you guys. I love being on the podcast with you.
Man, it was fun. It was fun. It's a good conversation. Good change up too. I mean, especially it's so relevant too, like with all the anxiety stuff that people are going through. And like I said, I mean, if you want to send me an invoice for $59 for my session here today.
Yeah, send mine to his too. It's Collin at repaintthewall.com. Just you can send my invoice to his too.
That was good. One thing I should say too is we actually started a support group online too, like on Wednesdays. So we got one at noon and one at 5 p.m. So that one's also a great way that you can save money while giving support with other professionals. So that one's just like $30 per session. And we try to make it flexible. Cool. So if somebody says, I just want to try it out for a couple weeks, it's just 2-week commitment at a time. And so you can help connect with other people going through something similar and encourage each other through what you're going through.
That's cool. Was that an adaptation that came from this, or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've had a group before, but we're like, let's do something really relevant to what people are going through now.
That's cool. Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for coming on our show, and look forward to doing it again sometime.
Yeah, this is awesome, you guys. Thanks for the time together.
Hey, Gainesville, this is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa, Eric.
Awesome.
We will see you guys later. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thank you, guys.